Hello everybody and welcome back to the Fortress of Solitude. Today we're going to be checking out Action Comics issue 1066 by Joshua Williamson, Rafa Sandoval, Miguel Mendonca, Alejandro Sanchez, Laura Braga, and Bresci. The House of Brainiac reaches its penultimate issue as Superman and his family are left at the mercy of Brainiac and the Brainiac Queen. Williamson wastes no time getting into the meat of the plot here as Brainiac reveals that his queen will kill the Superman family and then the Earth before moving on from world to world, consuming all of their energy. As I assumed, Lobo turns on Brainiac after seeing his people and Chacal killed and helps out Superman and his family, battling the Queen. Brainiac meanwhile moves to his next plan, which is dealing with Lena Luthor and the knowledge within his own mind, glitching his systems. So he brutally hooks the girl up to the systems so he can offload his knowledge into her, thinking of her as more of a RAM upgrade to his computer, only the data will kill Lena. I know Lena gets a backup in this very issue, but I think it was probably should have happened a little bit sooner, especially since we are now at the end of the event and still many people don't really know her connection to Brainiac and the history that they share. While Lena is tortured, Superboy taps into the new power that the Chained told him about. It's basically an upgraded tactile telekinesis, and he unleashes it as a huge electrical shockwave that destabilizes the Skull ship and its power sources. This is another one of the plots that never really went anywhere, and we just kept getting Connor repeating what the Chain told him, that he had extra power in his tactile telekinesis and he could access that if he tried, and it just needed a little bit more meat on the bone, and it just really wasn't anything and didn't really go anywhere. A backup maybe would have helped with him trying to learn this new power and trying to explore the powers he's had over the years or something, but it never really did anything, and it was just really probably put in there just for this very moment to kind of get them out of a situation. I get trying to balance story developments for characters in a big event is hard, and so far Williamson has been doing a pretty good job of it, but the edges are starting to fray a little bit here at the end. Not so much that I don't enjoy the book though, it's still very good. It's just these little pieces of story that if there was maybe more time or they were introduced a little bit earlier, they could have been developed a little bit more. Superman gets a great one-on-one fight with the Brainiac and does over the last two issues as well. He gets some really great fights with him, and Brainiac begins getting feelings he's never felt, like grief and love and sadness, and it adds so much weight to the battle with the Man of Steel, since now they are both fighting for their respective families. But Brainiac will never admit as much, as he's the only person who he believes needs all of this knowledge and no one else matters. Even Brainiac's own family appears to try and help convince him that what he is doing is wrong, and that he actually had a family if he actually tried to care for them. This was a little bit strange since we know Brainiac was gathering his family. That was in one of the backups where he gathered his son. Yet here he acts like he didn't even know his wife Lysol was aboard the ship and is kind of a surprise to him. So maybe this is like a byproduct of the glitching he's having and forgetting, but it's not really made clear, and that's something that happens a lot throughout these last two books where things happen, they're not really made clear or they're not explained, and it's just sort of you're meant to kind of fill in the gaps naturally, but your mind can't because there's nothing there to fill in really. There's a part that happens in Superman issue 15 that I'll talk about once I get to the review of that issue as well, that's very similar to this, where something happens but there's no beginning of that thing happening, it just kind of happens. With Brainiac shutting down, Superman and his family find the bottled cities, intending on getting them out as well, but first they have to deal with the other multiversal Brainiacs, and luckily, Lex has a plan to stop Brainiac once and for all. I was genuinely surprised that Kara came to Lex's defense, but I like that Williamson is using this as another opportunity to make Lex a hero again, and someone like Supergirl can actually see that he's actually trying. Lex of course is now doing it for family, wanting to rescue his daughter. Lex reveals that when he helped Brainiac build the machine, he built in a back door to Brainiac's hive programming, and after donning a drone helmet, he'll be able to meld his mind with the Brainiac hive and take control of his network and overload it. Superman, the family, and Lobo are left to defend Lex as the other multiversal Brainiacs are alerted to Lex infiltrating the hive, and a massive battle rounds out the issue as we move into the finale for Superman 15. That's not the only story in this book though, as Lena and Lex get a backup which is used to catch people up on Lena and Brainiac's history together, which I said before probably should have happened a lot sooner. Of course, we see the story that came out of Our Worlds at War back in the early 2000s, where Lex traded the baby Lena for future tech, and Brainiac 13 ended up upgrading Lena with all of his knowledge and power. Thanks to Lex's action in the main story, he has entered Lena's mind and tries to free her from the hive mind, giving her good memories, like Superman saving her from Brainiac 13 and returning her to Lex. This story goes a long way to paint Lex as a caring, loving father, and of course he's doing it in his own Lex way, but I like that we get to see a bit more of a vulnerable Lex that we never really see, and I like that he comes to this realization when he's cradling this baby daughter who is infected with Brainiac technology, and he doesn't know how to fix her, that he realizes he is not the smartest man in the world, no matter what he does, no matter all the money he has, the future tech he has, he's not the smartest man in the world, and that kind of shatters him that he can't help this helpless child. This is when we learn that Lex sent Lena away on an island to live with her grandmother because he didn't think he deserved her, not until he got better, and his time with Superman and Supercorp have finally changed him for the better. This is some honest to God character development, something Lex has sorely needed, and it's such a great way to take the character, fitting him with the themes of family, of the Superman and the House of Brainiac books, and what they've all been about for the last couple of dozen issues. Eventually, Lex and Lena must battle Brainiac 13 within the system, but they are ripped apart and Lex is taken elsewhere, leaving us on a cliffhanger for the final issue as Lex vows to get Lena out, even if it kills him. I am super invested in Lex's plot right now, since his willingness to become a hero seems so genuine, and his drive being his daughter is so genuine, and it's backed by some really great stories that are steeped within Superman lore, like Our Worlds at War and a lot of the early 2000s Joe Kelly stuff. A real awesome time to be reading Superman comics back in the early 2000s with these books, and it's pulling from so many great avenues from that era. Action Comics issue 1066 for the most part was a great ride towards the finale. There were a few hiccups when it comes to certain plots and how I wish they were developed a lot more than they had been, but with a fantastic backup developing Lex's character with his daughter and the book looking stellar thanks to Williamson's great art team, the penultimate issue for the House of Brainiac is a lot of fun. I'm going to give this issue an 8 out of 10.